up with a question for Professor. Yes. So, Professor, you mentioned that you had a very systematic analysis of the conflict in Ukraine, and one of the factors was the difficulty of a future reconciliation between the elites. Now, from what I understand, there are certain groups, political groups, represented in Ukraine that, well, to put it very mildly, it would be very, very difficult to make them amenable to any kind of peace agreement with territorial concessions. So, how can we even theoretically think of the terms of a potential peace agreement? Because, is freezing the conflict where the front lines lie at that moment, is that the best we can hope for? Because if Ukraine is supposed to agree to certain concessions, are there any forces in Ukraine that would be able to agree to these kind of concessions?
I think yes, because the argument in favor of a resolution, a compromise resolution, that would include possibly compromise on territory, compromise on all the things that Russia's interested in coercing Ukraine to agree to, non-NATO membership, respect for minority rights, all of this right now is excluded by the current Ukrainian law. There's a mandatory outcome. But if the position that the Ukrainian government is in is one of existence or collapse of the country, then I think all things come on the table. As a precedent for this, I would say look at how eager the Kiev government was to negotiate on those very principles in the Istanbul Accords. First in Minsk, then of course that grew into the Istanbul Accords, and we know the text, and we know what the Ukrainian government was willing to agree to. Now, it wasn't the final text, I understand. There may have been some further negotiations, but the Ukrainian delegation, which was representative of the government at that time, did in fact agree to most of those concessions, made very important strategic concessions. The objection that's sometimes made to me is that, well, yes, politicians will make that compromise, but the nationalists never will. Again, I have to say, if you look at the history of Ukrainian nationalist movements, and I've done some study of this through their growth and existence in the 20th century, we have seen time and again that when placed before the prospect of either concede these points and survive to fight another day, or cease to exist entirely, Ukrainian nationalists will shift. They will find a strategic loophole to use to justify their continued existence and rebuild for another day. I would even say that perspective of living to fight for tomorrow, for the next generation, is baked into their ideology. So they never leave. But, I don't want to say this, I won't say it. It's like very difficult animals to kill. They survive. But that doesn't mean that they need to sort of run the whole shop. Certain things in life will never go away, but they can be managed. And this, I think, is nationalism is something like that for me.
I just wanted to add, too, that it's almost like, just kind of another analogy, it's like those guests at the party who never want to leave. And, you want to eventually find some way to kind of maybe force them out or accommodate them. I don't know. Do you want to add something?
No.
Okay.
Just a quick comment. The problem is that the Russian leadership seems to know that. that they may sign something to fight an enemy. The leader of Russia said that we're not going to.
Well, this is
So that's not realistic on his part.
Можно я одну вещь добавлю? Насчет украинских элит, там насчет парадокса украинских элит и национализма, одно то, что те националисты очень сильные антисемиты, но при этом страной очень сильно управляют еврейские. Уже понятно, что украинский националист, он очень такой гибкий и парадоксальный.
Можно так сказать.
Right. We have another question?
Yes.
Yes, please.
This is a question for Shota, but also Petro and others. Well, the current situation, as we said, so we can see superpowers conflict in the region, but do you think, can you imagine that there is another game that is not apparent today, which can favor restructuring of the region between Turkey and Russia? Just look at the facts. Abkhazia, South Ossetia is under control, not control, but at least under influence of Russia. Algeria is under economic influence of Turkey.
Yes.
The south of Armenia is under threat of being controlled by Azerbaijan and Turkey. Of course, I put aside at the moment the eventual reaction of Iran, but there are some cases which circulate about such an agreement between the two countries to share this region. What do you think about that?
For Turkey and Russia?
Yes.
I want to address this issue actually. If you want to, well, but I have a ready response if you're ready to go. But let him go first.
Can you answer for Russia?
Yes.
Да, очень.
Oh, yes, I should translate.
Очень интересный вопрос. Они же переводят, там есть перевод.
You're going to translate from Russian, right? Okay. Oh, but in what language? In English?
Французский.
Okay, you do what you do. It's a little confusing.
Очень интересный вопрос, очень актуальный вопрос. Реконструкция геополитической картины, можно сказать, такой мозаики, фактически уже за последние 3-4 года очень активно идет, очень активно. Интересы Турции, особенно в Грузии, они с 90-х годов настолько сильнее, что фактически здесь не только такие интересы, как у Евросоюза, конкретно в Грузии, исходя из соседей,
alongside a natural process. Big neighbor, big economy, trade and economic ties between Georgia and Turkey are very close, one could say, and on the backdrop of the conflict with Russia over 30 years, Turkey used its foreign policy, the instruments that helped it very strongly take foothold in Georgia, especially in Nigeria. Nigeria, that region, is that region where the de facto economic hegemony is Turkey, but in the last few years, the balance is changing. The balance is shifting to the benefit of citizens of the Russian Federation who are coming there and buying real estate. Ukrainians are coming, many from Kazakhstan, many coming. And the port belongs to Kazakhstan. They bought a part of it, the private port. 80% of the shares belong to Kazakhstan, not to the Turks. So China is building massive infrastructure, multimodal terminal is being built, and the Chinese and the Kazakhs have invested in it. Turkey is not taking part in that. And there's a bit of a negative aspect there. Saudi Arabia is also very active in this area. Why is it a threat, Saudi Arabia? Because we know that in the territory of Algeria, 25% are ethnic Georgians that were Turkicized over 400 years and are now followers of Islam. The problem isn't that they profess Islam. That's not a problem. They profess Sunni Islam. It's not a problem. They're equal citizens of Georgia, ethnic Georgians just like us. The problem is there's the threat of radicalization and politicization of Islam. The last 15 years I'm studying this. I specialize in international law, terrorism studies, and prevention of terrorism, religious extremism. I know well this problem that exists in Algeria, the threat of Salafite enclaves emerging in the territory of Algeria. As we know, in Saudi Arabia, not just in Saudi Arabia, there's been high-level support and financing of radical Islam because their official religion is Wahhabism and Salafiyya. They want, they're actively financing Algeria, an autonomous republic, and purchasing, and they want to buy, open new cities, build new cities, specifically for the Arabs, people from the Middle East. So there's this threat, emerging threat, not just for Georgia, but for the whole region of the emergence of these enclaves. And it's uncontrolled. The Islamicization is a threat, not so much to Turkey, because anyway, Turkey is a secular state, although there's neo-Osmanism in Turkey and in Turkish foreign policy and in strategic, on deeper strategic levels. You can see it if you read these books carefully and if you carefully analyze Erdogan's foreign policy. There is a segment of Islam there, but still, Turkey is not such a threat as those countries which officially support Wahhabism and support it on a high level to the point of creation of Salafite enclaves. The balance is good, and we're restoring relations with Russia now because I still hope and think that Russia doesn't want to concede this region to other regional players because it's in the vital interest of the Russian Federation. And the situation would be also balanced out by Iran, not just Russia, because Iran has its interests. And as I said, China also is going to balance that situation. There's a threat of Turkey exists. I've written a lot about this, even in my scientific papers. The main facts in terms of Islamization of Georgia, the participation of Turkish special services, 45% is a large role in the radicalization of Islam. That threat is not carried by the Shiite Ummah. Iran is not in support of any radicalization. It is not at all a threat to Georgia. And then there's the threat for Turkey, but recently this is changing. We can say this picture is changing. It's becoming more balanced. Although Turkey is not hiding its interests. We have the main problem with Turkey is related to the Metcheta, which were deported from Georgia because of collaborating. In Nakhaltsikha, they were collaborating during World War II with the Turkish Special Services, and Turkey, as we know, was in the alliance, in the coalition with Germany, and then it so happened that their then NKVD were exiled to Central Asia, and Turkey actively demands return, repatriation of these folks. But the problem is, we don't mind. I mean, if those people recognize that they're Georgians, they will say that they're patriots of our country, you're welcome back. But if they think they're Turks, then let them go to Turkey. There's a logic in that, because if you're Georgian, consider yourself Georgian, you're welcome. But if you're not even Georgian and you consider yourself a patriot of Georgia, then you're a citizen of Georgia, no problem. But Turkey, in a way, wants to not just Georgia, but in Nakhotsika and some such to increase its political influence. If we agree to this repatriation, 300,000 Muscati Turks is quite a misbalance in the region. Let's not forget that in these territories that they left, those villages which they left, there are Georgians and Armenians living there already. Ethnic religious conflict. Erdogan understands this situation. In the border areas near the border, the population that will support it, that's why he's demanding repatriation. And insist on repatriation of these people. This is a controlled process. Georgian leadership are not agreeing to this concession. It's a huge threat. Understandably, Erdogan has his policies. One nation, two countries. And it wants to have this belt through the territory of Georgia, because it's impossible to go through Armenia. By settling in these territories, Turkish-speaking populations, so detach really Armenia and cut it off, and to have natural access to Azerbaijan, ethnic access, if you will, with the ethnic factor. So in this context, yeah, of course, Turkey is a threat. But then again, it depends on us. If Georgian leaders do not agree, do not concede, do not engage in traitorous policies, Erdogan will not come in with his tanks and occupy territories of southern Georgia. It all depends on us. And we do need balance in the region. Without balance, it's impossible to carry on living.
I just want to add to that, actually.